welcome to Horror Cult Trash Over, the show that discusses all the masterpieces and trashterpieces of genre cinema. I'm Gary.
And I'm Chris.
And it's another Pride Month episode. We're back again.
Yay.
Back again.
Feeling even prouder.
Even prouder. Even with today's film, that the gays not a lot of the gays look fondly on this, according to my trivia.
It
surprises me.
Got a history with the gays,
yeah.
isn't it?
But, you know, it's campus tits, so there's lots that can be forgiven. We are, of course, discussing Basic Instinct from 1992, and this week's special guest for Pride Month is a first. We've had comedians, directors, scare actors, podcasters as guests on this podcast previously, and today we are joined by a member of the Instagram collectors community, a fellow Real Housewives fan.
Yay.
I was waiting for that. A guy with amazing taste in films and a full-on expert on all things Basic Instinct. Frankly, we could not record this podcast episode without him. It's Curtis from Curtis Corner.
Hello. What an introduction that was. I mean, if you guys can top line me for the rest of my life and like pitch me to people, then that'll work out for me perfectly. Thank you.
Well, you have your own Real Housewives tagline, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I may be a catastrophe, but I'm the finest one in Yorkshire.
That is amazing. That is the first Real Housewives tagline I've had on this podcast.
No,
I don't think it could be beaten either. So
no.
But if you come back, when we have you back on as a guest again, if you want to come back, then you're gonna have to think of a new one each time.
Oh, I've got like a season's worth, so we'll just burn them off each time I come in.
Amazing. So of course we're also part of the collectors community on Instagram, and it's something that it's a big part of the horror community, thanks to the power of social media. When did you start collecting, and what made you want to start your Instagram and such?
I thought you were talking about Real Housewives, then I was like, is it a huge part of the collectors community?
Yes,
I posted about it on my story like twice, and I get dragged for it so much. I started collecting. Are we talking Blu-rays or just anything?
Yeah, Blu-rays.
All right, okay. So I'd started collecting Blu-rays when I was. So it was the year that Spy Kids 4 came out. So I think it might have been like 2009 or something like that, maybe 11, one of those two. And I had gotten a Blu-ray player for Christmas that year, and my first Blu-ray set was the Scream trilogy. So it kind of just started from there. But prior to that, I'd been collecting DVDs forever, and then I had a bad incident with orange juice, as most 8-year-olds do. And the DVDs went missing.
Oh no.
What?
And Basic Instinct, I'm very curious. What's your history with this film? Because you, as I said in the introduction, you are, like the biggest Basic Instinct fan I know anyway. And understandably so. What's your history with the film?
So my history with the film is, truth be told, I cannot remember how it was specifically that I came to knowing about it. I just know that I must have been around about 12-ish years old. And I think I was looking for a horror film to watch, and I'd gone to Blockbusters with my mum, and I was looking through, like, you remember at Blockbusters they used to have these like bargain bins, and it was like things that used to be there on rental, and then you could just buy the DVD and it'd be like £2 or something.
Yeah.
So it was in there, and I was like, oh, can I buy this? Because, I mean, that poster is like one of the most iconic posters I've ever seen. And my mum looked at me and went, absolutely not, put it back. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, right, okay.
Where the story was going there.
She was like, you're 12 years old, stop it. So I was like, all right, okay, no worries about it. Didn't kick up a fuss. So I went in with my nan on the Saturday, and I was like, oh, there's this film I really want to get from from Blockbusters. It's only £2. And she's like, oh, what is it? And she sees it, and she's like, I'm not sure you can watch that. And I went, no, it's a horror film. And she's like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, because I'd already watched Scream at that point. I was a huge horror fan from like a really young age. And so my nan was none the wiser and bought it for me. And I was like, right, I've just got to leave this at her house. And then my mum will never know that I've seen it. And so that was my history with it. And then I popped it on, and that first scene starts up, and I'm like, this isn't what I thought it was, but we'll go with it. And so, yeah, and then, God, how many years later? 12 years later, and I'm still loving it.
That is amazing. That's even better than I was expecting. I love how Chris was like halfway through that. Oh, I thought I was going this way, and it went the exact way he thought it was going.
Always throwing the curveball.
Oh, that is amazing. And of course, we can't not ask you this. Who's your favourite housewife?
Oh my God, right, okay. So my all-time favourite housewife is Tamra Judge from the Orange County Housewives. She's the first housewife that I actually became a fan of because that was the first installment that I'd seen. It was like summer and I thought it was Desperate Housewives that was on. So when I turned onto it and this really creepy clown music started up and they were like giving these taglines like, I'm the hottest housewife in Orange County. I was like, who are these women? And I am going to be watching the entire thing. So Tamra's my all-time fave, and then Teresa from New Jersey is a close second. Because I kind of feel like I have a lot of things in common with Teresa, which could be bad for me. I feel like I'm a bit of a ditz, and I say words wrong sometimes, and I can be a little bit hot-headed. And then I would say, she's just started on Dubai and she's literally swooped into my top 5 and it's Chanel Ayan. Like, I am fully obsessed with that woman. She's a star. She was born to be a star.
Yeah.
She is beautiful, drop dead gorgeous
as
well.
Absolutely. And I love Kenya Moore as well and Karen Huger from Atlanta and Potomac. They're like my top 5, I'd say.
Gary, struggling with Teresa, aren't you?
I was, but
we've only come into New Jersey as a whole season this season.
Mm-hmm.
So she hasn't come across too great in this.
Right, so what we need to do is go back to season 1.
Yeah.
And I need you to watch this and see how it all transpired, because I could talk about this for days and I would annoy everybody. But I feel like Teresa's always gotten a really rough ride on Housewives because she's constantly used as the main character. And you can tell she doesn't always want to be used as the main character. Like, if you saw Ultimate Girls Trip, she was so chilled on that season and she had a great time because no one was coming at her.
Oh shit, she was on Ultimate Girls. Yeah, she didn't do a lot.
See, exactly. Everybody forgets because she wasn't flipping tables on it. So it's like, it's one of those things. She comes across in a bad way quite a lot of the time, but when you know the history of it, basically Melissa Gorga's one of my least favourite housewives, and my opinion ain't changing on it. So and her and her husband can waddle on off to some other spin-off and don't ever come back.
Agreed.
She's best friends with Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah, she was even at the premiere of Jennifer Lopez's documentary recently.
I mean, define best friends. If I think stalker maybe would work, and like public appearance, few social media followers, get this on there. I don't. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Real Housewives, we are discussing a film today with lots of legs, hips, and body.
Yes.
And a film with a lead that is just about as good a liar as Erica Jane.
Oh, absolutely. Well, is Erica a good liar, Gary? I don't know.
Exactly. Sharon Stone gives herself away so much throughout this film, and she doesn't give a shit, and I am living for it.
That's her intention.
Absolutely.
Her intentions.
Exactly. But obviously, Erica Jane is slays less than Sharon Stone.
Speaking of shagging a man much older than yourself,
that as well. That's where I was going with it. Directed by Paul Verhoeven, who we previously discussed Showgirls. We haven't discussed the others, but he's also directed Total Recall, Benedetta, RoboCop, Starship Troopers. The list goes on. He did not write the film. Joe Esterhaz wrote the film, who also wrote Showgirls. He also wrote Fist, Flashdance, Jagged Edge, Music Box, Checking Out, and lots more. Budget, $49 million, and it made $352.9 million worldwide.
He definitely...
Sharon Stone deserves every penny.
Yeah.
And it made much more on video as well.
Oh, yeah. One thing I appreciated way more this time around rewatching it is because we've watched a fair few Paul Verhoeven films in between this time watching it and the first time we watched this. And I figured out his satirical approach to it, which I didn't get at first. I just thought it was a really good film. But this time, seeing the satire elements just made me appreciate it even more. Chris, do you prefer this or Body of Evidence?
It's a difficult one. Probably Basic Instinct is the better film. Cat value, though, Body of Evidence cannot be beaten.
Have you seen Body of Evidence, Curtis?
Yes. Of course I've seen Body of Evidence. I love Madonna. I haven't seen Body of Evidence in a while, though. It was... Yeah, I keep wanting to introduce it to Tasha, who's, you know, you've probably all seen her on my page, because I know that you guys follow me. So it's like, we watch a lot of thrillers, or rather, it's always I introduce her to a lot of thrillers, and Basic Instinct's been like the standard. And I keep telling her about Body of Evidence, but we've not watched it together yet, and I just know that that'll be a wild ride.
Yeah, it holds up a treat. I mean, we did it for the podcast and a part of our Madonna episode, and it was something.
That part of that scene.
It's high camp and ridiculousness.
I'm amazed it was released in the same year as this, but like months separating them, so neither, you know, copied from the other. But obviously, it was a time where erotic thrillers weren't exactly difficult to find.
No. I've discussed them a few times on the podcast. The Channel 5 Friday night erotic thrillers. Loads of them. There's a fresh one every week. We used to watch it and discuss it on a Monday morning at school. Absolutely ridiculous. Basic Instinct, I feel like, started all that.
Yeah.
Or it's at least top tier pinnacle of that erotic thriller ridiculousness where, you know, all the ladies are naked for pretty much the whole film, and you're lucky to see a couple of men's butt cheeks. But I was supposed to discuss it on a Monday morning at school. You know, it's definitely the antithesis, whatever word I'm looking for, the pinnacle of that. And
It set the standard.
It set the standard, and Body of Evidence rode on those pigtails a little bit.
Do you know what, Chris? We are learning more about your childhood during every Pride Month episode.
Really?
This is kind of like a series of events now, because last week it was the gay film you put on for everyone.
The gay film, yes.
And
Subtext, Christina Ricci.
and now it's your erotic thrillers from Channel 5.
Who watched Channel 5 erotic thrillers on a Friday night? Showing my age, maybe. But it was literally just... It was like Basic Instinct with a very thin plot and bad acting, and, you know, not even close to the level of cinematography that Basic Instinct has.
Just to like build on that, actually, because I got to see Basic Instinct at the cinema this year, like literally right at the beginning of last month, because it was the 30th anniversary, sorry, and it had gone back into the Odeon cinemas. And so me and Tasha, I was like, we've got to get to this. I was like, this is one of my all-time favourite films. I will be damned if I don't see this on the big screen before I die. So we went in and we watched that film. And I remember I was sat there thinking, it's so 90s, but it looks like it was filmed today.
Yeah.
It looks so good. Like, everything about it, the camera angles, I'm obsessed with how the shooting style of it just holds up today. And... The only thing that really gives away the era that it's in is the clothes. And some of the words, obviously, like, you know, back then and stuff like that, it's, you know, things that people wouldn't say today. You know, like Jesus, man, stop riding me and stuff like that. It's like, you know, people don't really say that today kind of thing. So that gives it away. But the shooting style, if I would have watched it without that, I would have thought it were filmed like 2 years ago or so.
Yeah, it's one thing that Paul Verhoeven always does really well. I mean, we watched Showgirls at cinema, and that was pretty much the same. It's something really unique that no other director can really do in the way that he presents these films that are all satires on certain elements of filmmaking and whatnot, certain genres. You know, if any other filmmaker made these at a lesser grade quality, they'd just be dismissed as trash. But Paul Verhoeven does it in such a way that you can't help but admit it's a good film because the filmmaking is so incredible.
He's essentially given you B movies with an A-list attitude.
Yeah.
You know, it's the biggest stars. It's Michael Douglas. You know, he was a big star in 1992.
Yeah.
You know, Sharon Stone maybe not, but, you know, it's giving you high budget exploitation.
Yeah.
That's what his films do, particularly his Hollywood films. You know, something like Starship Troopers, You watch that and you think it's a throwaway sci-fi piece of crap, and you watch it and like, oh my god, this has layers.
Yeah.
This, this isn't meant to have layers. I'm meant to eat my popcorn and drink a beer and watch Denise Richards shoot some massive aliens. But I'm getting a commentary on America. I'm like, what is this? And he does that so well, and I think he's very underrated as a filmmaker.
Oh, definitely.
Very underrated.
The thing I like is that he knows exactly what he's making.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not trying to pretend it's something different. Like, he knows Basic Instinct isn't going to win an Oscar, which it should have done, but he knows that it's not gonna. Do you know what I mean? It's like he knows what he's making, and he just wants to give everybody a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting into the trivia, no body doubles were used in any of the sex scenes. And I've started the trivia with that because as other listeners of the podcast will know, whenever there's a film with an important piece of nudity or a controversial sex scene, the trivia is full of fucking sex. Because that's the only trivia people seem to be interested in. But I've tried to sort it out as much as I can.
Excuse me.
Wrong choice of words. Paul Verhoeven had some disagreements with Michael Douglas over his direction of Sharon Stone. Stone was reportedly very nervous and insecure, and in her first scene, she was unable to replicate the performance that she'd given during audition. According to Verhoeven, she came very close to being replaced, but since he knew that she had what the role required, he coached her intensively to get the required performance out of her. However, this caused Douglas to feel left out, as Verhoeven thought that Douglas, as an established actor, no longer needed such close attention. It eventually led to a very heated argument in a trailer, the stress of which caused Verhoeven to burst a vein in his nose that caused profuse bleeding. When he went outside with blood-stained clothes, crew members thought that Douglas had physically hit him in the face.
Have you ever in your life been so angry that your nose started bleeding? I'm like, you need another job. If you're so angry at your work that your nose explodes, I think you're in the wrong profession. Now, obviously, I love his films, and I'm glad that he's still directing. But that's an early grave right there. If you are so worked up, your nose just spews blood. You need to calm down, mate.
I remember when I was at school, I had a Spanish teacher who got really angry with us in one lesson, and he went to open up the door to the classroom, and he grabbed the handle so hard to pull on it that he'd gone and ripped the skin between his finger and his thumb.
Oh my god!
Yeah, right in front of us all, and it was like, yeah, therapy's required.
It's not worth it. Life's too short.
Sharon Stone was also, by the way, we learned in this trivia that Michael Douglas, he's not going to listen to this podcast, bit of a piece of shit. As we go on.
Mind your own fucking business, Michael
I
Douglas.
know.
You do your shit. He wasn't a producer on this, was he?
Why is he upset that Paul Verhoeven's not paying him attention? You're still getting fucking paid.
Mind your business. Do your fucking job. Yes, I know you're in every scene of the fucking film, but no one gives a shit. You are not the star of this film. Get your name off the poster. No one cares.
Sharon Stone was director Paul Verhoeven's first choice, but was only offered the role of Catherine after 13 actresses had turned it down, as she was not a marquee name at the time. Would you like to know the actresses considered?
I would absolutely, and I'd love to give you my opinion on each one.
Sit back. And sit back, there's a few.
Ooh.
Erica Jane. No, not really.
Jane.
Nancy Allen.
Ooh, yes.
Rosanna Arquette.
Nice.
Ellen Barkin.
She would have been good.
Drew Barrymore.
Nope, far too young.
Kim Basinger.
Yeah, that would have worked.
Annette Bening.
Yeah, it would have been a little different for her.
No, Chris, there's about 50 of these. Are you sure you're going to do this for everyone?
Okay. You said 13!
Yeah, that first teen that came forward for the role, these are what he wanted.
Oh,
these were considered.
Oh, okay.
Elizabeth Berkley.
Okay.
Helena Bonham Carter.
Oh.
Kim Cattrall, now, come on.
That would have worked.
Kim would have been good, yeah.
Yeah.
Would have been good.
Stockard Channing.
No.
No.
Jennifer Connelly.
No.
Courtney.
Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah.
Was she like legal when this came out?
92.
Well, how old was she in Phenomena? Like,
As 86, she must have been like, what, 15?
yeah.
Oh, no, she would be barely. This isn't for someone who's barely in their 20s.
No. Courtney Cox.
No,
Gina Davis.
maybe.
Rebecca D.
Monet, yes.
Yeah. Laura Dern.
Yes.
Fuck
she could
yes.
do anything.
Farrah Fawcett.
Is this the same year as Jurassic Park? Could you imagine?
It's near that time.
The trajectory.
Linda Fiorentino, Carrie
Yeah.
Fisher, Bridget Fonda, Jodie Foster, Gina Gershon, Lisa Rinna.
Lisa Rinna.
No, I'm just seeing if you're listening.
Lisa Rinna could have done it.
Heather Graham, Jennifer Grey, Melanie Griffith, Linda Hamilton, Daryl Hannah, Helen Hunt, Angelica Houston, Diane Keaton, Nicole Kidman. Do you think Heartbreak would have felt good in a place like this?
Yes.
Diane Lane, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Courtney Love, Andy McDowell, Madonna, Virginia Madsen, Bette Midler,
Bette Midler could not. I'm sorry. With all due respect to Bette Midler, she's a legend, but she could not have played Catherine in Basic Instinct.
I would have paid good money to have seen that. Demi Moore, Catherine O'Hara, Annette O'Toole, Sarah Jessica Parker, Michelle Pfeiffer, Annie Potts, Kelly Preston, Julia Roberts, Mimi Rogers, Isabella Rossellini, Renee Russo, Meg Ryan, Winona Ryder, Ali Sheedy, Sybil Shepherd, Elizabeth Shue, Sissy Spacek,
Yes.
Emma Thompson, Leah Thompson,
Emma Thompson.
Uma Thurman, Marissa Tomei, Kathleen Turner, yes, Deborah Winger, and finally Robin Wright, all considered for the role of Catherine. That is
Basically anybody that was a working actress in Hollywood.
basically, yeah.
And he's literally sat there and like, what actress would I like to shag? And get her involved. Bloody, although that is a killer list. I mean, that is basically my taste in film right there.
And the thing is, honestly, I don't think any of them could have done it like Sharon Stone did. Sharon Stone was so good as this character that I can't picture anybody else playing her. And like, Demi Moore's an interesting choice because obviously in Disclosure she was playing a Catherine type.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just minus the murder. And I didn't think that she did it as well because Demi Moore, you see Demi Moore and sometimes you only see people playing one role and it's usually like the character from Ghost. And like Heather Graham always usually plays like the good girl kind of thing. So to see them doing something different, you just can't envision it.
Yeah, definitely.
I think closest for me would be Kathleen Turner because she played a sort of neo femme fatale in Body Heat.
Crimes of Passion.
As well. So she'd done sort of the overtly sexual role. In terms of femme fatale in Body Heat, she really encompassed that sort of using sex to get what she wants sort of thing that was so prominent in film noir, which I think is what Basic Instinct is trying to do with a very 1992 sensibility. But Sharon Stone is perfectly cast.
Yeah.
Perfectly
cast. And just when you thought the casting trivia was over... These are all the actors considered for the role of Nick.
Oh no,
it's not as long. It's not as long. Richard Dean Anderson, Tom Berenger, Jeff Bridges, Nicolas Cage, Kevin Costner, Tom Cruise, Robert De Niro, Harrison Ford, Michael J. Fox. Michael J. Fox? Who watched Back to the Future and was like, oh yeah, he'd be great in an erotic thriller. Richard Gere, Mel Gibson, Don Johnson, Tom Hanks, John Hurd, Ray Liotta, Christopher Lloyd, Jack Nicholson, Chuck Norris, Al Pacino, Sean Penn, Brad Pitt, Dennis Quaid, Charlie Sheen, Martin Sheen, Wesley Snipes, Sylvester Stallone, Patrick Swayze, John Travolta, Denzel Washington, Peter Weller, and Bruce Willis.
Jesus.
I actually think Michael Douglas is good casting.
Yeah.
I think what you needed for the role was a slightly older gentleman who's maybe a bit past his prime, who still sees himself as a stud.
Sylvester Stallone.
I think that would have worked as well. I think someone like Michael J. Fox was too young.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what the character is going for. I don't think it's a naive character,
No.
but someone who is past it, you know, and
Yeah.
I think age plays into that as well.
And it's not really like he had a hard time with this film, considering that he's played that character like a million times in every other film made. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's always playing some bloke that gets like roped into some weird sordid sex like plot, and there's always some murder there, and it's like he always ends up being the hero, and you're like, eh. But in this one, he don't.
And this is what I like about the film. You know, technically, he's as much of a villain as she is with his little shooting incident. So that's what kind of helps towards the gay representation for me. It's not the fact that, oh, she's a lesbian, she's a bisexual killer. You know, that's not the issue here. I mean, he's as much of a piece of shit, you know?
I think for me, the theme is, aren't men stupid?
Yeah.
And he is, I mean, every man in this film is fucking stupid.
It's true.
And annoying. And, you know, really...
You're fully on Sharon Stone's side.
Yeah, it's
Let's
toxic
face it.
masculinity.
Yeah.
I know, you know, as a gay guy who worships, you know, Sharon Stone, of course I was on Catherine's side. I'm not sure if that's really the intention, but it was certainly not on Michael Douglas's side.
No. Speaking of Michael Douglas, he felt an established star was needed to play Catherine, so the movie would be carried by two well-known actors, and the risk of career damage would also be shared. He suggested Demi Moore or Michelle Pfeiffer for the part, but no actress of name was prepared to go completely nude for the role. Pfeiffer said she found the idea of filming the erotic love scenes too daunting, said, I just couldn't do that one because of the sexual parts, the nudity. My father was still alive, I'm kind of prudish, and honestly, I'm not that inhibited about my body. I'm modest.
I love Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
Just on like a topic, I love Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah. And she's already, like, you know, owning 1992 in Batman Returns anyway.
She is actually, yeah. If it was this or Batman Returns, I think she made the right choice.
Michael Douglas declined to go full frontal in the film, and he did not want his characters to be bisexual. Christ.
That doesn't surprise me.
I am 95% positive that Michael Douglas has a cock shot in this film.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm with you on that one because, I mean, unless they used... oh shit, no, actually, no, we're both wrong. They used body pads, apparently.
Oh.
It's another bit of the trivia.
The body pad fell off. There's like a section in the film when he's on top of her, and it's like a wide shot. I mean, when you see this film on a big screen, you see a lot. And someone drops down from in between the legs, so it's either the pad fell off or it was something else.
The microphone.
And this is why we needed you as the guest on this podcast, for these little details.
Eagle eyes.
Do you not think it's telling that Michael Douglas could turn around and say, no, you ain't seeing my dick, but Sharon Stone or someone like Michelle Pfeiffer couldn't turn around and say, no, I don't want to do full frontal nudity?
Absolutely, classic 1992.
Classic Hollywood cinema.
Classic Hollywood. I mean, let's face it, this probably still happens to this very day.
Exactly.
You know?
And the thing is, the way that she was kind of like, it's so weird. Well, it's so bittersweet that like one of Sharon Stone's best known moments is the product of she didn't even know that was going to happen.
Yes, yeah, we got some of that in the trivia later on. I wasn't aware of that until doing research for this film. That's definitely surprised me.
Oh wait, so have you not watched the documentary?
No, have you watched the documentary?
Yes.
Even better.
She goes into it in the documentary a lot,
yes.
And they all actually talk about it. Every single cast member talks about it. Not Jean Triplehorn, but they basically kind of, what's the word? How do I say it in English? They talk about the fact that you would not be able to get away with doing that to somebody today. And whereas back then, it was literally just considered so normal that she just had to deal with it, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Which is disappointing, but she's kind of... The thing I love about Sharon Stone is she's gone and taken that, and she's gone and she's literally just laughed in all of their faces because they just hired her to be the female lead, and she ended up swiping the film from all of them. Do you know what I mean? Like, that film is not known as the Michael Douglas film or the Paul Verhoeven film. It's known as Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct. You know what I mean? It's like it's always going to be her film.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll skip ahead to that bit in the trivia, actually. So according to a poll for movie subscription service Love Film, that scene, the leg crossing scene, has been named the most paused blink and you'll miss it moment in movie history. The scene was not in the original script. It was thought of by Paul Verhoeven whilst the movie was being shot, and it was based on a memory of Verhoeven's college years when a woman at a party had done the exact same thing to embarrass him. Okay. Sharon Stone later said she had no idea that they were going to show her vagina in that infamous? What the fuck is English today?
Oh.
Infamous scene. When we did it, it was going to be an innuendo, and the director said, "We're seeing the white of your underwear. I need you to take them off." And I'm like, "I don't want you to see anything." And he's like, "No, you're not going to," she recalled. When I saw it in the theatre with a bunch of other people, I was in shock. When the film ended, I went in the booth and then I slapped Paul Verhoeven. Yes, Queen. And I said, "You could have showed this to me by myself." However, the director strongly denied Stone's claim, saying she was fully aware that her vagina would be shown in the movie before the scene was filmed. And Verhoeven has also repeatedly asserted that despite the controversy, he and Stone remain on good terms and there's no bad blood between them. They just remember things differently. I believe Sharon Stone.
The lies he tells.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course he's going to say that. Of course. Yeah, considering that is like the most famous scene from the film. That is absolutely shocking. That's how it went down.
Yeah, it's the scene that made Sharon Stone's career. It's the one that everyone talked about, but it also projected her career in a certain direction.
Yeah.
You know, and she's a fantastic actress. She was nominated for an Oscar, you know, a few years later, for Casino. But that is what she's remembered for, and it was kind of taken out of her own hands.
Yeah.
And that's what is, you know, not good. It's not good.
No, absolutely.
And she's owned it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like you said, Curtis, you know, the fact that she's owned it and used that to make a career, then fair play to her, you know, that's...
Yeah, and the thing I love about her is that the way that she provokes important conversation with the usage of the scene, I think that is so well done and so incredibly clever, because she'd won an award, I'm going to say quite recently, but since the last 2 years sort of blended into one, it could have been 2019. But she'd won an award recently, and she'd gone out on stage and she was doing the leg crossing scene. And she was linking it to empowerment, but then she went and they were all like applauding her and everything, because that's the scene, that's the big moment. It's like Sharon Stone's doing this scene on stage with everybody. And then she provoked such a much more important conversation about stuff like that in Hollywood and everything, and she really got her message across, and like she got a standing ovation at the end of it, and I just thought that is so well thought out.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a film where her character very explicitly stabs a man in the face multiple times with an ice pick, yet all we can talk about is her vagina.
Yeah, again, that's something else that comes up later on in the trivia.
But it's the Barbara Streisand effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
To give you a bit of context. The film where Barbara Streisand had shown her breasts, and she wanted it cut out the film, and she told everyone, do not show them, do not, you know, blah, blah. She told everyone who would listen. But if she'd just kept quiet, no one would have known. But she told everyone about this scene. And so in owning it and saying, yeah, you know, I'm owning it, so what? You know, I'm empowered. Then Sharon Stone has been able to change the conversation.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, props to her. And Elizabeth Berkley has subsequently done the same with Showgirls.
Yeah.
Where she said, actually, I own this now.
Mm-hmm.
This is, you know, many people love this, love my performance, love this sexuality within Showgirls. And, you know, I want to be part of that rather than telling everyone, you know, how awful it was because certain people didn't like it.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many people who loved it, you know, and loved me for it. So I'm going to be part of that now.
Absolutely. Kirk Douglas, then aged 75, attended the premiere and praised his son's bravery in making the movie. Are you fucking kidding me?
What did Michael do that was so like brave?
Michael, me and Mike, my pal,
Mikey D.
Mikey D. But earlier in the trivia, you said that he thought the film was a big risk.
Yeah.
Bitch, it wasn't a big risk to you.
Yeah.
It wasn't. You know, Michael Douglas's career would have survived a film like Sharon Stone's career wouldn't have if this was a big flop and a big joke. Bitch, Elizabeth Berkley's career didn't survive Showgirls.
Exactly.
But Carl McLaughlin's did.
Yeah.
You know? So shut up, Michael Douglas. Kirk Douglas can shut up too.
Mikey D also said in interviews that he wanted to star in the movie because he felt sex scenes were in danger of disappearing from Hollywood due to the AIDS epidemic. Really? What is wrong with this fucking guy? Oh, and he had a full facelift before filming again.
Of course he did.
He had a facelift before filming.
He needs to get a refund.
How old was he?
Have you got his date of birth there, Chris?
Full facelift. That's the brave part.
That's yeah. Like going on screen with that facelift, that, you know, the non-existent one.
That explains the acting. 1944. So by that point he was pushing 50. He was late 40s.
Fucking facelift made him look older. He looks older than 48.
Yeah. He's one of those, it's hard to tell, because he looked kind of old when he was young as well.
He looked old when he was born, he was just born like that.
I feel like a lot of people in this film kind of just have, you know, I think they all, but I don't think it's them, I think it's more the year that the decade that it was made in. I feel like everybody in the 90s all looked older than what they actually were. And that's not like in a shady way, that's just in the things that people would wear and the styles that was in and stuff like that. It was very much like, I think it was designed to make you look older and like sophisticated and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. The role of Nick was originally a lesbian cop written for Kathleen Turner.
That's hilarious. That's amazing.
That would be so good.
Paul Verhoeven was on record when he first signed on to do the film as saying that he wanted to make it the first Hollywood mainstream film with an erect penis in it. He didn't get his wish, but he did get a limp penis on screen for the corpse for Boz.
Yeah.
Goals. I mean, if that's what you're headed for in your career, you know, you got to aim high. Later followed by a sequel, Basic Instinct 2, which flopped at the box office without Michael Douglas in it. Have we seen Basic Instinct 2, anyone?
No.
Yeah, I've seen Basic Instinct 2. Of course I've seen Basic Instinct 2. I have the Blu-ray. It's terrible.
All I remember...
But I think my favourite scene in that... You know what? Basic Instinct 2, I just got to say this about Basic Instinct 2. They let Sharon Stone down with that movie. They seriously let her down because we knew that she could play that character so well. Yeah. And the way that she'd come back into it and the dialogue that had been written and the direction that she was getting, I was just thinking, this is like, you're not trying to help her right now. Do you know what I mean? It's like she's not playing the same character. It felt like a very different character to the one that we'd seen in the first film. But specifically, there's one scene in that just always sticks out to me. And it's when, have you watched Basic Instinct 2?
Not yet.
No.
All right, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say. Y'all are going to watch it, and then we'll discuss it.
Are you going to come back on for Basic Instinct 2?
I mean, I don't think we can get a full episode out of Basic Instinct 2, in all honesty. Maybe like an add-on on something, or just a couple of DMs. I don't think it's going to be like an episode-worthy thing.
Well, one of the main points of disagreements between Paul Verhoeven and Joe Esterhazy with First Basic Instinct concerned Verhoeven's wish to include a lesbian love scene between Catherine and Roxy, as he considered a movie that only mentioned bisexual love without showing it to be only Puritan.
Yeah.
Esterhazy considered such a scene to be pure sensationalism and wanted to have nothing to do with it. Verhoeven made some attempts himself, even considering having Nick secretly watch whilst the two women have sex. However, he found that the scene ruined the movie's pace, so he abandoned the idea and publicly apologised to Esterhazy. The only remnant of the scene in the movie is when Catherine and Roxy passionately kiss after Nick leaves the apartment.
I don't know. Do you think it would have benefited from the sex scene?
I don't know. I mean, the whole film feels very gay as it is. I mean, it would have added to it, and I think it would have been a good addition. Not sure how important, no.
I feel like the route that they would have gone down with it would have been more gratuitous than anything else.
Yeah.
I feel like it would have just solely been in there so that the audience could watch two girls getting off with each other.
Absolutely.
And more importantly, like, if they're going to throw a Michael Douglas into the scene to watch, it's like, it's not there for anything other than just, like, filler and just for the audience to gawk at. Another scene for everybody to pause on the VHS tapes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't say this much about films, but the sex scenes in Basic Instinct actually kind of push the narrative.
Yeah.
Or they encompass the themes of the film, and I don't think that was... Because I don't think Roxy was ever in danger of Catherine killing her, then I don't think that was necessary. Whereas in each of the sex scenes with Michael Douglas, there's the feeling in the back of our heads that he's going to get killed at any point.
Yeah.
So I think the sex scenes in Basic Instinct, the way they are, is necessary. That one wouldn't have been necessary.
Definitely. Faye Dunaway openly criticised Michael Douglas for not letting Sharon Stone have the top billing.
Yes, Queen.
Do you know what? Faye Dunaway was on the money with that one.
She was. Yeah.
His name's above the title. On the DVD, it used to... Now, Studio Canal have at least done something to alter this, like when they did the big re-release last year for 4K. They went and added Sharon Stone's name onto the box, onto the poster, whereas before, on the DVD, it was just always Michael Douglas in, like, the biggest letters across the top of the thing, as if, like, it was his movie. And it's just not at all. It's the same with Denise Richards in Wild Things. Like, Denise's name was never on the title. She's fifth billed. Do you know what I mean? She's fifth billed in the movie, and her name was never included on the poster with Kevin Bacon, Matt Dillon, Nev Campbell. Denise Richards' name wasn't on there. But for the Arrow re-release, they're like, yeah, let's put the star of the show's name on the poster.
Yeah, because she's a much bigger presence in that film than Kevin Bacon was.
Kevin Bacon's barely even it, but he had an EP credit, so it's like, you know what's going on there. It's just so like, hey, Kevin Bacon. It's like, oh my God.
There's Bill Murray in that film as well.
Yeah, Bill Murray's in the film too.
We're watching that this month. I watched it a lot when I was younger, but we're watching that this month, aren't we? For Pride Month. One of our
I just watched that again last Saturday. I watched it last Saturday again with Tasha, and the new transfer is amazing. So yeah, and I'm glad that they've put some respect on Denise Richards' name. Did you get the Arrow edition?
Yeah.
Yeah, watch the interview that she did afterwards.
Oh, okay. Go with Denise Richards.
I love Denise Richards.
Oh, she's so angry.
What have we previously discussed with Denise Richards? Oh, Valentine.
Valentine.
Of course, yeah.
Valentine.
Yeah. Then she's been in any other podcast films.
Yeah,
So
Tammy and the T-Rex.
Tammy and the T... Of course,
Yes.
Tammy and the T-Rex, yes.
Yes.
Starship Troopers.
Starship
We
Troopers.
need to do that.
Her best performance, I think, is Drop Dead Gorgeous.
I love...
She was
Oh my
very
God,
good.
Drop Dead Gorgeous. I love that movie.
Everyone, that was so good.
Mm.
So Sharon Stone, when doing the interview circuit, as you mentioned earlier, Chris, she's annoyed by the fact that everyone always asked her for how she felt during the nudity scenes when she had real problems with the fact that her character killed someone on screen, to the point she had to have a paramedic on standby during the famous intro scene. She kept passing out and suffered nightmares.
Yeah.
Adding on to that,
Taylor's oldest time.
She was not protected on the set.
no.
She wasn't a star.
Well-
She wasn't.
Well, adding on to that, after the film's release, someone actually called Sharon Stone's mother and asked her how she felt about her daughter's nudity in the film. Her mother said, frankly, I was much more concerned about her playing a sociopathic serial killer. But thanks for calling.
Excuse me, spoiler alert.
Yeah, no.
No one's calling Kirk Douglas saying, "Oh, what do you think to Michael's ass being on full display?" Did he get an ass lift?
He was brave, Chris.
As well?
He was brave. He was very brave. Yeah, no, it is crazy the way people look at sex in comparison to violence. It really is, and it's something we've discussed on this podcast many times before. I'll never understand it.
But this is a film that deals with sex and violence together at the same time, but still all anyone can talk about is the sex.
Yeah.
And a scene with no violence.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It's stupid.
When you even look at the promotion though for the film, it was never promoted with the violence. Like, if you watch the original trailer that came out, which is like a fever dream, by the way, when you watch that trailer, it puts a lot of focus on the sex than anything else.
Yeah.
And it looks... I would suggest watch the original trailer that they produced for the first cinema run, and then watch the trailer that Studio Canal did for the re-release last year, and just tell me which trailer's better. They're both good, but one is better than the other.
I think ultimately, though, sex does sell. And if the original trailer the emphasis was on the sex, then the film made a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it must have worked. So I think it's telling of the film industry, and for me personally, you know, it's the ridiculousness of the sex and you know, because it's very over the top.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm not getting my kicks from it.
It's just Paul Verhoeven sex, isn't it?
Yeah. So that does sell, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, to get an R rating, Paul Verhoeven had to recut the film a total of 14 times. The scenes demanding the heaviest recuts were the murder of Johnny, the date rape of Elizabeth Garner. Where was that?
What?
He didn't drug her.
Yeah.
Did he?
Oh, date rape.
Yeah.
I mean, she repeatedly says no, though.
That's a complex scene. We're going to get to that.
It is, yeah.
During the film. But yeah, I wouldn't exactly describe that as date rape, though. That's, you know, someone...
Wait, but is that like... There's a part of the plot, isn't there, that they don't fully get into about her past?
Ah, yeah.
Is it maybe like... Maybe it's linked into that?
Maybe.
I don't know, I didn't actually know that fact, so that's an interesting one.
The sex scene between Nick and Catherine, one of them... I mean, I swear there's more than one. But, and the death of Gus, which is, I mean, I can understand why the MPAA, with the sort of attitude they had around this era, would have moaned about that. Gay rights, a final bit of trivia in what has been the longest trivia section in any episode ever. We have discussed Psycho, we have discussed The Shining, we have discussed Halloween, and this is absolutely by far the longest trivia section we've ever had. Gay rights activists were so against the way the gay characters were portrayed that they blocked the San Francisco set numerous times. Paul Verhoeven had to issue fake call sheets to trick the protesters into blocking unused locations. When the film was released, the activists paraded around San Francisco theaters handing out flyers saying Catherine did it, to ruin the plot for moviegoers. This didn't seem to have any impact at all, as the movie opened at number 1 on the same weekend and went on to become one of the highest grossing films of the year. Which also, as well as ending the trivia section, that leads me on a segue to the question we asked during every Pride Month film. What makes this gay? But more importantly, is this positive gay or negative gay?
I think it started off as negative gay, but I think it's grown into something that's a little bit more positive. Because I think back in the 90s and stuff like that, LGBTQIA plus people were being used as the villains in things. Whereas, like, now, I mean, I don't know about you, but I love seeing, like, a fantastic, like, gay killer in a horror film or something like that.
Absolutely.
And I like the layers for it as well. And I think it's a bit of a double entendre because it kind of plays into the whole, like, you know, it's villainizing gay people and stuff like that. But the way I look at it is that, you know, you have a lot of straight killers. I mean, I could give an example, but like my brain's going to mush. We have a lot of straight serial killers in films and stuff like that, and they don't represent all straight people. Do you know what I mean? So I don't understand why. Could you hear the dog barking? And they don't represent all straight people. So I don't think that Catherine Trammell represents any bisexual people at all. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not a case of all bisexual people are killers. I feel like that's kind of what people have come to accept with the film as the years have gone on.
Absolutely, and it's like I said earlier, you know, if she was the only killer in the film, then, you know, maybe there'd be some excuse for an argument, but at the same time, Michael Douglas is genuinely just as bad a character. I mean, if anything, he still kept his job after killing 2 people. You know, whilst on cocaine.
Still very on brand today, by the way. But
yeah, exactly. And that's the sort of thing that kind of, you know, makes this more positive for me. And, you know, as far as our usual what makes this gay question, I mean, come on. Sharon Stone.
It's high camp, which always, you know, is gay. How I saw it is that Sharon Stone, Catherine, wasn't a bisexual character in the sense of this is what bisexual people are.
Yeah.
She was a character who used sex to get what she wanted, whether that be with a man or a woman.
Yeah.
So she used Roxy as much as she used any other character in the film. And because of the way, and it's something I'll discuss more, because I'm educated. No, but psychologically, she uses a lot of different methods to control people, but ultimately, sex is the one that works the most.
So are you going by the theory that she could be asexual and just using sex as a weapon?
No. I believe she's a bisexual character, but she uses her sexuality, her innate personal sexuality, and her beauty and sexuality to control people, whether they are male or female.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter to her.
Yeah.
I think also she probably had the strongest connection with Roxy, the female character. So I think that's actually quite a positive representation.
Yeah.
I don't actually think she ever intended for Roxy to die how she did. Sorry, spoiler alert.
Absolutely. You got any more to say about it?
No, because I think we'll get more into it once we get into the film.
I mean, I have one thing to say. I do think that it's not at all does it invalidate how people felt in the 90s, because it's like, you know, the beauty of time is that you can grow to love things that you didn't love before.
Oh, yeah.
And I do think that in the 90s, it's like, especially like in the middle of an AIDS epidemic too, it's kind of one of those things where you just, you know what Hollywood's ulterior motives are with what they're doing, and you need to stand up for it and say that's not right. So I think that I totally get where they're all coming from, because you want representation, but when you're not getting representation, do you know what I mean? And then when you start to get the representation, it's kind of sucky if you feel like all the representation that you're getting is like geared towards you being evil.
Absolutely.
So I think as we've gone on, like today, you know, we've got amazing representation for the LGBTQIA plus community, and we don't have enough, but we're getting there.
It's true.
And the representation that we get now, it's a real melting pot, and I love that, because we've got representation of all kinds of characters, and that's what's important, because there's all kinds of people. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Something like Heartstopper, which is a gay series, readily available on Netflix, you know, the biggest streaming service in the world, and it's just a thoroughly positive representation. It's just it doesn't go through any of the ups and downs, I don't think, of, you know,
No, and well, I mean, with one character discovering he's bisexual, it's dealt in a very positive way.
Yeah.
It's, that's the bullying and everything is portrayed in the show because, I mean, let's face it, it needs to be because this stuff goes on. But there's definitely more positive moments in the show than the, more downbeat moments.
Yeah, I don't think it's playing on traumas too much,
No.
which I think a lot of gay media does play on. It's the trauma, when RuPaul picks up the photo and says, "What would you tell your 5-year-old self?" It doesn't. You don't have to have that all the time. So I think we've really come a long way in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Since Basic, and then obviously before that as well.
Yeah.
I think it's also refreshing that Catherine doesn't die in the end.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we'll get into the film itself.
Oh yeah.
So a violent police.
I forgot we were talking about the film.
A violent police detective investigates a brutal murder that might involve a manipulative and seductive novelist. We start with a mirror showing us retired rock star Johnny Boz having sex with a mysterious blonde woman. She ties into the bed, grabs an ice pick, and starts stabbing the fuck out of him.
I love how the opening credits are a kaleidoscope effect.
Yeah.
And you're confused from the get-go. You're like, what are we seeing here? What's happening? Is it what I think's happening, which is, someone's having a shag? And then you cut to it, you're like, oh, okay, yeah. So from the get-go, you're sort of confused, and you're like, what is going on here? And it turns out to be what you think it's going to be, which is kind of how the film plays out as well.
Yeah. Iconic opening scene.
Yeah.
I feel like as well the soundtrack, like as soon as that music starts, you just know that you're in for a good time.
Oh my god, the soundtrack is amazing.
Like, we need that on vinyl. I want it on vinyl, two vinyls, and I want it as like a clear ice blue swirl.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In San Francisco.
Just the opening sequence as well. And it's something that comes up a lot during the film. Is the woman is on top.
Yeah.
And you don't see that all the time in cinema.
No.
In sex scenes, particularly in general sex scenes. Mainstream sex scenes where the sheet's on top of them.
Yes.
And this, that, and the other. But it's very much a theme throughout the film is when the woman is on top and when the woman isn't on top. And I think that's very interesting, and it's there from the get-go.
Yeah.
She is on top. Yes.
Yeah, we know from the get-go the woman is in charge.
Symbolism. The curtains were blue. No, I'm just kidding.
In San Francisco, homicide detective Nick Cohen.
Homicide?
Did I do that again?
You
Oh my
do
god,
that
do you
a
remember
lot.
last year when I said homicide?
Homicide.
Anyway. Future career homicide detective.
I mean, it's spelt homicide.
No,
Is it?
No, homicide.
Oh no, homicide.
Homicide.
Oh, God.
Homicide detective Nick Curran. We can't say that. Michael Douglas didn't want to be gay, remember? Investigates the murder of Johnny. So the best dialogue in the film, he got off before he got offed. Nick and the other detectives are having a great time looking around this crime scene.
They are. Notice how they're all older, mainly white men.
Yes.
They all sort of, I feel, represent a certain kind of masculinity.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point. There's the idea that there's spunk all over the bed sheets. And we're like, oh, okay, then, in true Paul Verhoeven style, he shows us by flashing a UV light all over. I'm like, oh, yeah, there's...
Definitely there.
There's spunky stains. Yeah, definitely. Wash your sheets with a bit of bleach more often. But that's... I mean...
What's the train of thought now?
The thing is, other filmmakers wouldn't show you that.
Wow.
This is what makes Paul Verhoeven so great. It's because they would say, "Oh, spunky stains on the sheets." Like,
well, unless we're talking Stranger by the Lake.
Yeah. Whereas Paul Verhoeven were like, "Actually, let's get the UV light on there. Let's show you what they're talking about." And I think that's great. I love that.
Yeah. Curtis, do you have anything to say about the spunk before we move on?
I mean, it were there, so it was there. The interesting thing is, I thought it was always you've got to ignore the facts of life when you watch this movie because, obviously they could have, like, they were using DNA testing back then, so they would have found out that it wasn't.
DNA debate, yeah.
But, like, apart from that, when you take it out of the equation, I don't know. I never really thought anything. I didn't think that much about that part. I just thought it was very. It felt very realistic that would be the conversations that the detectives would be having.
Yeah.
Not just because they're assholes, but in the way of when you're in a job where you've got to go investigate dead bodies. I mean, eventually you're going to have a sense of humor about it, otherwise you'll go crazy.
Absolutely.
I find throughout the whole film, a lot of the characters, their dialogue starts with sex.
Yeah.
Particularly Nick, when he's defending himself. The first thing is, you want to know how many times I jerked off. This is how it all leads off with that. And I think the conversation here does as well. It's not necessarily, here's a corpse that's been, murdered in a horrible way. Look at all the spunk on the sheets.
And
did the maid do it? Nah, the maid couldn't have done it because she was too fat and old to get on top.
Yeah.
This is where and I think it's that certain type of masculinity, and I think Nick embodies that in many ways throughout the film, that toxic masculinity, and that's how I read the film and the character.
Nick and his colleague, Detective Gus Moran, go to question Boz's girlfriend, the crime novelist Catherine Trammell. When he gets to her house, he meets Roxy, Catherine's so-called friend, and they ask her, when was the last time you saw John Boz? And she says, he's dead. Not at all suspicious.
So John Boz and Catherine, they've both got Picassos, haven't they?
They have.
But hers is bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought another insight. They think that Roxy is Catherine.
Yeah.
As she descends the stairs.
Yeah.
As in any sort of film of this type, that would be Catherine.
Yeah.
And she would descend the stairs looking all glamorous, like a good Madonna tribute act. Not Madonna, a good Madonna tribute act. And that they think that's Catherine. That's how they see Catherine would be.
Yeah.
She's glammed, she's, ready for MTV or whatnot. And that's not how she's introduced in the film. And that's playing in, film noir, that's how the femme fatale would be introduced.
Yeah.
Glam, made up,
Yeah.
And that's not, because we then cut to them meeting Catherine for the first time.
And what an introduction that is.
Yeah.
She's smoking at her beach house, she's loving life, just looking at the beach.
She's got Mrs. Voorhees sweater on.
She's just an unbothered legend, to be honest. It's like she just doesn't care. Like the thing I love about Catherine is that not everything that happens in this film, aside from Roxy dying, she doesn't care about it.
It's true.
Like she's just like, yeah, okay, and next, moving on. Do you know what I mean? Like that's kind of how she is about it all, and it works so well for the character because you really get from that first introduction. Because obviously they try and make you think that it's not her in that opening scene. They want to give a little bit of mystery to it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, could it really be her? Would it be that obvious? Do you know what I mean? And whatnot. So when we're first actually introduced to her and we see her body language and everything, you just think like, yeah, she don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it, because you just know that you know that this character you aren't gonna be able to take your eyes off her, because she's going to give so much by giving them so little in the way of emotion and stuff like that. Like, it's perfect.
Absolutely.
She's playing on their expectations of her, and it's a really well written character, I think, from a psychological point of view, because she's very calculated.
Yeah.
But she didn't tell you that. She didn't show that.
Yeah.
You don't see her sweat.
And I love how I love some of her first lines of dialogue. I mean, when they ask how long were you dating him, she's like, I wasn't dating him, I was fucking him. It's like, okay, this queen is a sex positive queen. Does not give a fuck that she's making herself sound suspicious as well in the process, but you got to stand someone like that.
Yeah.
Use the policy.
Catherine tells the detectives that she had been sleeping with Johnny for 1.5 years. She's sorry he's dead because she liked fucking him. She's like, read me my rights and arrest me. Take me downtown. Otherwise, get the fuck out of here.
The redubbing on that scene is absolutely hilarious as well.
Nick goes to see his counsellor, Dr. Beth Garner. We find out that Nick's sex life is shitty since he stopped seeing Beth and hasn't had a drink or done cocaine in 3 months. And Beth still misses him.
Yeah. So this is Nick all over. She asks how he is.
Yeah.
And he says his sex life has been shit since they broke up. Like, I don't remember her asking about his sex life.
It's that facelift, isn't it?
But this is him. It's from the get-go.
Yeah.
It's, oh, well, I'm not good because my sex life hasn't been good because you're not shagging me anymore. He's developed calluses on his hand because he's giving himself a treat. Sorry, did I have to explain that one? I wasn't sure if I did.
Yeah, thank you.
She misses him. Is it Gus that says, boy, when that girl mates, it's for life?
I think so, yeah. It is Gus, yeah.
Yeah. Beth's character really irritates me because I kind of feel like I just want her to love herself a little bit more because she clearly doesn't. And there's just so many more moments where I'm thinking, Beth, just literally leave him be, just fuck off. Do you know what I mean? It's like he's not going to give you what you want. Do you know what I mean? So just walk away from it. There's no need for you to be chasing him, but obviously that's how the character's written. Do you know what I mean? It's not a reality show where you're like talking to a real person and you want this real person to go and do the right thing.
Oh, she could absolutely way better.
She just has so many moments in the film where you're just thinking like, oh God, Beth, like really? But in a way, I guess it makes it a little bit relatable to other people because it's like, we've all had those moments as well. So it's like, where you're thinking like, something's bad for you and you should walk away from it, but you kind of end up staying because, I guess you're used to it and whatnot. But there's just so many moments I'm just like, Beth, girl, just call it a day.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick and his colleagues figure out that Catherine has a history of dating rich people who die and has wrote a book about a rock star getting murdered by his girlfriend with an ice pick. So it's concluded that either Catherine is the murderer or someone is attempting to frame her. And this leads us to a setup for a certain iconic scene. Nick and Gus go to take Catherine to the station. Nick finds a newspaper with his name on it and watches Catherine get changed into something more comfortable. Yeah, and then Catherine on the drive. I mean, this is one of my favourite scenes. This is genuinely one of the best examples of her just not giving a shit. Like, she might as well just say there and then, yeah, of course I killed him. Are you serious? Of course it's me. Yeah. But she's absolutely just making an absolute mockery of these detectives. It's great. She asks Nick if he wants a cigarette before congratulating him on quitting. She takes a cigarette out and offers him one. Gus asks if she's working on a new book, and she says she is, and it's about a detective who gets killed after he falls for the wrong woman. And yet, from this point onwards, we see it spiral with Nick falling in love with her after she's told him that she's basically going to kill him.
Yeah. What I find is that she's playing on the conceptions of who she is.
Yeah.
So when they find out that Catherine is a multimillionaire with a degree in psychology and literature, they seem shocked.
Yeah.
Because how can she be beautiful and rich and intelligent? Which one is it? Who does she shag to get her million? Oh, she didn't? No.
Mm-hmm.
So she's playing on that, and like I said earlier, with using sex to control people. In psychological history, we watched Suddenly Last Summer, where the Elizabeth Taylor character is in partly controlled by cigarettes.
Yeah.
Being offered cigarettes that she can't get herself. So Catherine, on a few occasions, offers Nick a drink, a cigarette, stuff that he's meant to be quitting as a way of controlling him. Ultimately, that leads to sex, which she uses as the ultimate way of controlling people. That's how I read this. Yeah. And I think it's such a well-written character to have these little incidents where she's playing him, and she's playing him from the get-go.
Yeah.
And he thinks that he's playing her back. after this.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not.
No.
Because he's never as good as she is.
Exactly.
I mean, it's the fact as well that, like, she's literally set this entire thing up for her next book. So, do you know what I mean? It's like, so from the get-go, like the murder, she knew who was going to be getting on the case. She knew who was going to be coming to interview her and everything like that. So it's all part of a plan.
Yeah, that is some queen behaviour.
Mm.
Catherine arrives at the station and is questioned by ADA John Corelli, who you may recognise from Jurassic Park. She lights a cigarette despite being told she can't smoke, tells them how she never tied Johnny up because she liked him using his hands and fingers, and also tells them that she didn't kill Johnny because it would be stupid killing someone the same way they were killed in her book. She then asks Nick if he's ever fucked on cocaine, uncrosses her legs to reveal something, and then says it's nice. She made it. She did it nice.
She did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, iconic with a problematic backstory turned positive later on. What is there to be said about this scene in general?
I think it defined a lot of the thriller genre.
Yeah.
This scene is what a lot of thrillers try to replicate. They want that basic instinct moment that's just surrounded by so much controversy that it's what the film ends up being known for. And I think a lot of thrillers haven't successfully been able to replicate it. I think a few have, but I think a lot of them have kind of fallen flat.
It's true. It's true. I find a lot of thrillers have only managed to succeed when they don't try doing something like that, when they've got enough good going for them where they don't need that sort of moment. And this film had enough going for it where it didn't need this moment. But of course, it's the one that everyone remembers. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And Chris, what do you have to?
I think from a character perspective, her doing that is very much part of her plan.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, and I'm going to keep saying it because it keeps coming back in the film, she uses sex to get what she wants.
Yes.
And she knows the guys there. She knows what these older detectives are like.
Yeah.
Their toxic masculinity. She's like, well, how am I going to play them? Really?
Yeah.
Well, let's use sex. And it works.
Yeah.
It works because she then passes the lie detector test, which is such a weird visual. Did you not think that was a really weird, like Sharon Stone in that dress? I forgot this is part of the film, like with a lie detector, like all the bands and everything.
It's very
on
camp.
her.
Very
it's high camp. But she knows how to get ahead, you know, and she mentions the cocaine with Nick.
Yeah.
You know, she knows Nick inside out. We find out later that she's been planning this for months before they even met each other. She's been planning all this. And I think it is queen behavior, you know. She knows what she wants. She knows how to get it. Yeah, what she wants is to murder people, to use their stories for a book. But, you know, she knows what she needs to do.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
And she does it.
Yeah, she passes the lie detector test. She's released. Nick gives her a lift home, and she asks if he took a lie detector test after shooting 2 people. He says he did, and he passed. So this is when we start to learn that there's a bit of a darker side to Nick. Hence his counselling with Dr. Beth. Nick orders his first drink in 3 months at the bar and insists to his colleagues that he and Catherine don't know each other, despite her knowing so much about him.
She's starting.
She's starting.
It's ordering that whiskey. She's starting.
It's revealed that her parents died in an accident when she was younger. Another detective, Lieutenant Marty Nelson of Eternal Affairs, taunts Nick about his double shooting. But Beth arrives and breaks it up.
Yeah.
Guys being guys.
Guys being guys.
Guys being
bit
guys.
of banter. Oh, do you remember that time you shot 2 people? Yeah, let's give you a fun nickname based on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So she and Nick go back to her apartment and.
Just something interesting that one of the officers says at the bar. He says, sometimes I think he only banged her to get off the hook with Internal Affairs.
Yeah.
Do you think Nick could have been guilty of using sex with
Yes.
Beth the same way
Definitely.
that Catherine used
Yeah.
sex to get ahead?
Yeah.
So he uses Beth just as much as Catherine uses him.
Well, definitely.
You know, Beth's always there to help him out in these tight situations. He probably should have gotten into trouble with the shooting of the tourist, because he pretty much admits that he was high on cocaine at the time. Beth comes into the situation and saves him again. And he only really interested in her when it comes to sex.
Yeah.
And then the scene after this, I think, plays into that even more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot that could be said about this sex scene. It is a very complex one. Yeah, I mean, what would you have to say about it?
So they go to Beth's apartment, and Nick is very rough with her.
Yeah.
Rips open her shirt. Did some buttons go flying? Rips open her shirt, and she seems uncomfortable. And then he gets really rough, and she says no. She does say no a few times. He continues, and then finishes very quickly.
Yeah.
It's very, very much about his needs, about what he wants. And she's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But she doesn't make that apparent right away afterwards.
No.
But then afterwards she is, I didn't like that. That was all about you. That wasn't making love. And you know, she's a bit of a wet blanket through a lot of the film, but she tells him, you know, fuck off.
Yeah.
You know, get out. That's not right.
Yeah, and as well, like, she thought that scene was going to be a lot lighter before they started shooting it. So it's one of those things again where you just wonder, like, you know, what was she told versus what was Michael Douglas told? Like, there's a lot there that's like unanswered, I think, about that scene.
I think that explains why the scene's so weird then, because, you know, there's certain moments in that scene where it looks like this isn't anything new to them. It looks like this is their sex life. This is what they do. You know, like, this is some sort of weird, rough role playing. But now that you've mentioned that makes absolute sense, considering if she didn't know that's how it was going to go.
She seemed uncomfortable. It's a very sad part of cinematic history that this happens a lot, where an actor is told to play a scene one way, particularly a sex scene and a you know, an intense sex scene. An actor's told to play it one way, where an actress is told to play it another way, to get some form of surprise or shock out of the actress.
Yeah.
Most famously, Last Tango in Paris, where Marlon Brando was told to use the butter, where Maria Schneider wasn't told that butter would be used. And it's a big part of cinematic history, unfortunately, because, I mean, directors don't trust the actress to give a performance, like what she's paid for. You know, if you tell the actress, play it this way, discuss it with me, and we'll figure it out.
I don't think it's that. I think it's all a power play. I think it's all a power play. It's like they're trying to let them know who's in charge, and I think that especially like back then, it's like, you know, your career could be over after this, so you do as I say. And I think they play on that fear a lot and everything of like not being able to work again and whatnot. I think it's all a power play.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think, it's true, because, you know, you wouldn't do that to Michael Douglas.
Nick follows Catherine, and a ridiculous and over-the-top chase ensues, until he follows her back to her house where she meets with someone. He waits until she leaves and follows her again before she speeds off, and he loses her. I love these little, like, Paul Verhoeven things where he just includes these really ridiculous, over-the-top things in the middle of his films. Like, this chase it's just so... It's unnecessary, but I'm glad it's there.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think it is necessary, though, because Nick is chasing Catherine.
Yeah, but he's just following her, and then it turns into this big chase.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I think it's indicative of the film, though.
Yeah.
Because it starts at him following her because he's a detective, and then he chases her.
Yeah. Gus discovers that...
And we get to see her naked in the video, in the window as well.
Yeah,
well,
of course. Gus discovers that Catherine's college counselor, Professor Goldstein, was also murdered by someone with an ice pick. He then discovers that she has a history of befriending murderers, including Hazel Dobkins, who killed her husband and children for no apparent reason.
That was always something I wish that they'd have gone into a little bit more. Like, I was always so intrigued by the Hazel Dobkins story. Like, what's going on there?
Oh my God,
like, give us something with that. I was always really surprised that we never got into that.
Yeah, I'd have loved to have seen a Hazel Dobkins spin-off, to be honest, especially with the amazing casting for Hazel.
Oh, Dorothy Malone, absolute legend, Oscar winner for Written on the Wind, one of my favourite films. I wish she was in it a bit more, but she was serving a look. Every time she was serving a look, you're like, oh, apparently killing all your family does you good because you look great.
Did she even have any lines?
Yeah, later on. She has some iconic lines later on.
She just calls him Shooter.
Yeah.
She doesn't have an interesting lines.
No.
She's just a couple. She just calls him Shooter.
I don't recall her saying anything.
Nick discovers that Catherine is basing the protagonist of her latest book after finding more finding more newspaper clippings at her house, which she says she's using for inspiration for the book. I mean, the fact he didn't click onto this immediately really says a lot about him. Catherine asks Nick how it feels to kill someone, and reveals that she knew he was on cocaine when he shot those two people. And this is when we get Roxy making an appearance and revealing herself to be Catherine's girlfriend, and the two start kissing as Nick leaves.
Yeah. Catherine, serving in a pantsuit.
Of course.
So that's what I got from that scene. Amazing pantsuit. She's absolutely serving. Yeah, so this is the sort of the bisexual element brought into the film. She's done her research.
Yeah.
You know, Nick was on coke. Doesn't she insinuate that Nick's wife killed herself?
She does, yes.
Yeah. So she definitely, you know, she's playing mind games.
Yeah.
Definitely playing mind games. And well too.
Yeah. Nick suspects that Catherine has bribed Nelson for information from Nick's psychiatric file, and that Beth has provided him with the information after he threatened to recommend Nick's termination. Nick assaults Nelson in his office and is sent home. Beth comes to see him and drop off the keys to his place with a Bart Simpson keyring. Come on, 90s. And they have a bit of a scrap, don't they?
Yeah, at one point during this, Nick says, she knows where I live and breathe. She's coming after me, Gus. But within respect to the film, she hasn't come after him physically
not
at all.
No.
He's followed her.
Yeah.
He watched her through the window. She hasn't come after him.
Yeah.
You know, he's just a detective that's investigating the death of her lover.
Yeah.
You know, not even boyfriend. You know, he's physically coming after her, but he's saying to Gus, she's coming after him.
Yeah.
That's what she is, though, because it's like, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's like she set this whole thing up. So it's like she knows what her ultimate end game is, and he's just the person that's playing the game and doesn't even realise it. Like, I remember the tagline for the poster was like, I think it was something like a brutal murder, a brilliant killer, and a cop who can't resist the danger. And I think it's that line, the cop who can't resist the danger. Like, he knows, I think Nick knows what she's doing, and he just can't resist it. And that's why he keeps going into it. Like, and that line just proves it to me. Like, she knows everything about me, and I basically know nothing about her. And I can't resist it because something about her is just pulling me towards her.
And I think he thinks he can play the game as well.
Yeah.
I think he thinks, oh, well, you know, if she wants a cat and mouse game, then I'll play along, not knowing that that's playing into her hands as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think from an outsider perspective, like, Gus is probably sat there like, get a grip. You know, like,
Yeah.
you know, she didn't know who you were
Mhm.
until 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Not knowing that obviously she did know.
Yeah. Nick falls asleep in front of the TV whilst watching previous Horror Culture Shiver Private podcast film, Hellraiser, when he receives a call to notify him that Nielsen has been killed. He was shot in the head whilst driving, and now Nick is a prime suspect, which makes for a very, very interesting parallel when he's interrogated, where Beth arrives to defend him, and he lights up a cigarette in the same way as Catherine did before repeating some of her dialogue too.
Yes.
And then he's put on leave.
We all have role models.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he wants to be Catherine at this point.
Who doesn't?
It was interesting how when Nick was talking to Beth, I'm just going back slightly, he said, we went to bed 10, maybe 15 times. Then why does she have a key to your apartment?
Yeah.
Like, why would you give a key if you're thinking we weren't even that close? All we did was shag 10 to 15 times. Because that's how he perceives relationships.
Yeah.
Is, you know, have I shagged you? Do I want to shag you? You know, how many times have I shagged you? Why would he give Beth a key to his apartment?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
Yeah.
I don't think Beth is. I think she's definitely being played
Definitely.
as well
Yeah.
by Nick. I think that's indicative of that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, she comes to defend him again.
Yeah.
You know, when he's, you know, in the same seat as Catherine was in. Catherine defended herself.
Mm-hmm.
Nick needs Beth
Yeah.
because he's flustered.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not crying, he's not breaking down, but you can see, and you know, Michael Douglas is a good actor. We're not, you know, he may have had a facelift, so he's really having to put the effort in, but you can see it that he's struggling, and Beth does have to come to his aid.
Uh-huh. Nick goes to see Catherine, and she continues to taunt him about the shooting as well as telling him about one of her books where a character killed his parents.
Ooh. That sounds similar to her parents.
It does. Nick and Catherine begin a torrid affair with the air of a cat and mouse game. Nick arrives at a club with people dancing like they're auditioning for showgirls, whilst Rave the Rhythm by Channel X plays, and witnesses Catherine doing cocaine with Roxy and another man in the bathroom. This club scene's amazing. It continues to look like showgirls after this as well, when Nick and Catherine start dancing and making out. Yeah, it's very 90s and very Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah. Roxy's aggressive club dancing.
Yeah.
Or so Nomi Malone's aggressive club dancing could run. She's not scared of showing her anger, but she still needs to dance. She's still got that rhythm.
that iconic Paul Verhoeven choreography.
In a very 1992 neon church decor.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting how Nick went into the bathroom and Catherine closed the door on him.
Yeah.
So she's given him a drink.
Yeah.
She's given him a cigarette.
Yeah.
She hasn't quite given him the sex yet.
No.
But she's also refusing to give him the cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
She shuts the door on that. So she's using that to manipulate him.
Yeah, I mean, after this, they are later observed by Roxy whilst they're having violent sex in Catherine's bed. Catherine ties Nick to the headboard with a white silk scarf, just as Boz was tied to by the mystery blonde, but she doesn't kill him, which then leads to him telling Roxy that he thinks Catherine is the fuck of the century.
This is a very interesting sex scene because it's almost like they're fighting to be on top.
Yeah.
Physically and, of course, you know, mentally as well, figuratively speaking, being on top of their cat and mouse game.
Yeah.
Catherine eventually succeeds.
Yeah.
And she is on top. Scratches his back. Real deep scratches on his back as well. Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting sex scene. You don't say that much in these kind of thrillers. But I think it did fit a purpose.
Yeah.
You know, this game between them, who's going to come out on top.
Yeah, definitely.
And then the fake out at the end, where it's a little awkward, when she sort of like slams into his face.
Nick tells Gus that he fucked Catherine, and Gus goes on to tell him how dumb he is before ranting about tourists for a bit.
Is this the part, excuse me, was the part when Nick says, let me ask you something, Rocky, man to man?
Yeah, that was
I think
before
she's
that.
the fuck
Yeah.
of the century, don't you?
Yeah.
And Nick's nude in this scene.
Yeah.
Very proudly nude as well.
Mhm.
Obviously we don't see it. So I think it's very interesting in terms of Nick's character
Mhm.
that, you know, toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to come out on top between him and Roxy.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he's the man.
Yeah.
And Roxy isn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Nick, tells Gus about it. Gus drives home drunk. I was convinced this was gonna. When I first watched it, I thought this was gonna lead to his death.
I thought
Conveniently.
that, yeah.
But instead of that, Roxy attempts to run Nick over with Catherine's car, but dies when the car crashes after a chase.
Yeah, Gus says to Nick that he thinks it's Catherine's pussy talking and not Nick's brain. Gus says, and Gus isn't, you know, he's no, like, Rock Hudson, is he? Oh, bless him, Gus. But he does say he could shag any blue-haired woman he wanted to, but he doesn't. So it's very, I think it's very much a play on, again, I keep saying it, but toxic masculinity, but also in the police force as well.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Paul Verhoeven always has something to say about American society.
Yeah.
And I think in this case, it's, you know, the police as well. Roxy, she dies.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. We barely knew thee.
R.I.P. Roxy.
Catherine grieves over Roxy's death, blaming herself because she let Roxy watch her and Nick have sex, but then asks Nick to make love to her, and goes on to tell him about a previous homosexual encounter at college with a girl named Lisa Oberman that went awry. She claims that the girl became obsessed with her in a very similar way to the plot of Single White Female, causing Nick to believe that Catherine may not have killed Buzz. Now, yeah, I think it's very interesting how she actually seems to give a shit that Roxy died.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, I mean, I think genuinely, like you said earlier, that was the most meaningful relationship she's had in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't kill Dorothy Malone either.
No.
Like,
Dorothy Malone?
who plays? I can't remember the character.
Hazel Dawkins.
The older lady. She keeps her around as well. And I don't think she ever intended for Roxy to die.
No.
I think she intended for Roxy to help, subconsciously, for her to get at Nick. But I don't think she intended her to die in that way.
No.
So I think she had probably a closer connection to the female characters than she ever did the male characters.
Definitely.
Yeah. Except Beth.
Yes.
Mm.
She couldn't give a shit about Beth.
Oh yeah, she probably was. Yeah.
The next...
Do you think Beth killed her husband?
Maybe.
I feel like Beth's one of those characters that I kept, like I said earlier, like I wanted something more from her, and I feel like they hinted at it, but they never really went into it. And I think if they would have done it, she would have been a more well-rounded character.
I think so, yeah.
I think the intention is that that's what happened. But they just don't really give us anything to go. You know, they don't give us anywhere to go with it.
No, and yeah, I would have liked to have seen her character fleshed out more, because I think she is a really interesting character, and I think it's a great performance as well, put in for that character also.
Mm-hmm.
The next day at the station, Gus and Nick discover that Roxy impulsively killed her two younger brothers when she was 16 years of age. Nick goes to see Catherine and is introduced to Hazel Dobkins. So this is where we get some dialogue from Hazel, where she's like, "You're the shooter, aren't you? How are you?" And it's like, that's your first time meeting him, and that's what you've got to say.
It's a waste of Dorothy Malone's talent. I hate to go on about it, but it's a waste. I mean, that's an Oscar winner right there. One of my favourite performances in Written on the Wind, and she gets 2 lines. but she's giving me Carol Channing realness. She looks great.
She has to get home by 6 because she loves America's Most Wanted.
She does. See, and Catherine's making these jokes now. You know, she's playing Nick so well that she can make.
Yeah.
She's cracking these jokes.
Yeah, Nick identifies Lisa Oberman as Beth, who acknowledges the encounter, but she claims it was Catherine who became obsessed. She claims she was the one who was copying her hairstyle and her fashion and everything, which causes Nick to confront Catherine about it. And she's like, "Oh, seriously, who do you believe out of us two?"
Yeah. Who do you believe? Because it's never really made clear.
Exactly, and this is the problem with the lack of
who.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be inclined to think, because of the ending, I'd be inclined to think that it was Catherine doing the copying,
Yeah,
and setting everything up.
But
I don't know.
I think Beth was absolutely obsessed with her.
he could, yeah.
I mean,
Beth is very attached to people as a character. Do you know what I mean? It's like we've gone and said about how Nick's basically gone and said that all that she really, like at the beginning of the film, he's like, "Oh, my sex life's been really shitty since I stopped seeing you," and she has a key to his apartment and everything, but he's just been doing that to get off the hook with the internal affairs. So I think she gets quite attached to people quite quickly, and the whole, that wig in that photograph that they go and do, like when it's like it shows her normally and then it goes and does the split screen of her looking the exact same age with this massive like blonde mullet on her head, and you're just kind of looking at it thinking, and then it gets forward to the end and she's got like the when she's looking at her in the yearbook graduation photo. And she's like full on like looking her up and down, do you know what I mean, in this picture, and it's like, yeah, Beth was obsessed. It's like they probably slept together once or twice, and then Beth's like thinking that they're going to be together forever, and it's like that's the way I interpreted it.
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good comparison to how she's with Nick as well. Yeah, I didn't think of it like that, but that's absolutely
and it's in
right.
keeping with Catherine's. I mean, she was probably guinea pig for
Yeah,
Catherine.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah, that wig. My God.
That wig.
She's giving me Laura Palmer from Twin Peaks. With that
Laura Palmer at like the dollar store.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. It was giving me Dolly Parton impersonator.
No, not Fire Walk with Me, Laura Palmer.
Oh my Lord, that's rude. Wow.
Nick goes to a hospital where Beth used to work and asks if her husband works there, to which he's openly told that he was shot and killed 5 or 6 years ago. I love how he's not like, "Oh, I'm a detective." He just walks in like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
What happened?" They're like, "Yeah, he died."
He's like, "What's the tea?"
He then goes to speak to a police officer who also openly tells him that her husband was killed with the same gun that Nelson was killed with, and that Nelson was there previously asking some questions.
Yes. So the plot thickens.
Yes. I love the, large amount of twists and turns in this film. It's great. So many of them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the way that they really do set it up to make you think that Beth has more to do with it, probably than what she actually does. But if there was ever one death in the film that I was a little bit apprehensive about, it was always Nilsson's, because I was kind of thinking to myself, it's completely different to how Catherine would have done it.
Yeah.
But then it also works in the way of it, to get at Nick and to crack down his psyche a little bit. And then obviously, like, they had a fight beforehand and whatnot. But then I also look at it from Beth's point of view and I'm thinking, well, she had to come in and defend Nick, do you know what I mean, to the police afterwards. She comes to his rescue again and then they have that nice-ish moment. And then after they have the moment, her face kind of like drops as she gets back into the car. It's like, Beth could have been trying to do her own little game as well. You never know. You never know. This film, every time you watch it, you discover a new twist.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick comes across the final pages of Catherine's book, in which the fictional detective finds his partner's body in an elevator. She then breaks off the affair, causing Nick to become very upset and suspicious. Poor Nick.
Wah.
She says, "The game is over. You were right. It was the fuck of the century shooter." And at that point, it's just like, yes, queen.
Yeah.
Hazel comes down the stairs and asks for Catherine. They both go upstairs together. So is she getting it on with Hazel?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love it. We definitely need more of that.
Catherine's doing everything. She's doing the most.
Yeah. Nick.
I mean, it's on point with her character.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Nick later meets Gus, who has arranged to meet with Catherine's college roommate at an office building, hoping to reveal what really went on between Catherine and Beth. As Nick waits in the car, Gus is stabbed to death with an ice pick by a hooded figure in the elevator. Recalling the last pages of Catherine's book, Nick runs into the building only to find Gus's body in a manner similar to the scene described. Did we think this was a nod to Dress to Kill?
Yes.
Yes.
That's all I could think of when watching it.
Yes, I think so. I mean, a lot of this film is a nod to Hitchcock.
Yeah.
And Dress to Kill is Hitchcock for the 80s.
It is. Yeah.
And this is Hitchcock for the 90s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I absolutely think that is a nod to Dress to Kill.
Yeah, Gus, can't say sad that character's gone, but he's dead. And you upset that Gus is
Not
gone?
really,
No?
not really. I don't really feel sorry for drink drivers, so...
Beth unexpectedly arrives and explains that she received a message on her answering machine to meet Gus. Nick suspects Beth has murdered Gus, and believing that she is reaching for a gun, he shoots her, but only to discover she was fiddling with her Bart Simpson keyring on her keychain.
The stupidest decision that character makes in the film.
Yeah.
Someone is holding a gun to you. Don't walk towards them and put your hand in your pocket. Like, stay away or run, do you know what I mean? Like, if you got a gun up at me, I'm like, I'm out, do you know what I mean? She's like, that starts walking towards him.
Yeah,
and he's like doing this like coy smile as she slips her hand in her pocket. It's like, what game are you playing, Beth? Because it's not going to end the way you want it to. Bam. I was like, what's going on here?
Poor Beth. I mean, yeah, she wasn't the brightest spark. She tried, but she wasn't the brightest.
Do you think she made the ultimate sacrifice?
No.
For...
I always rag on this character a little bit because I just always wanted, more from her. But I felt like I couldn't. There was only really 2 times that I could sympathise with her in the entire film, and I was just thinking like she's everything that. She represents something that a lot of people do, and when you're in that place a lot and then you kind of get out of it, you look at people like that and you just want to shake them because you just want to go, come on, stop, do you know what I mean? Don't fall down this path with this person that's not good for you. And she never gets it. And you just kind of, by the end, you're just thinking, what were you hoping to achieve with the keyring?
Yeah.
Like, that's all I could think about. It was like, did he give you the keyring? Were you trying to pull the keyring out to go, do you remember when you gave me this Bart Simpson keyring? Please don't shoot me in the chest. Do you know what I mean? It's like, he ain't gonna stop. He's fucking nuts. That scene for that. And then her last words are, I loved you. It's like, so you were a simp in life and a simp in death. So thanks, Beth. Done. Check. Off the bucket list.
So do you think, yeah, this might get a little complicated, but do you not think she deliberately did that for Nick or Catherine? It depends who she was ultimately obsessed with.
Yeah.
Because it's indicated that she was obsessed with Catherine in college, but also potentially Nick afterwards. I think that she killed her husband, and somebody knew about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nick's final words to her was, still like girls, Beth? Do you remember that?
What are you
He found out that she had a girlfriend when her husband was killed.
Yeah.
So is she making a sacrifice to save Catherine because she was obsessed with Catherine? I mean, Roxy did it.
Maybe.
I just don't think Beth's got the layers. Do you know what I mean? I feel like Roxy barely had any dialogue, and she was on screen for such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
But she still had a lot of layers as a character, do you know what I mean? Like, she was quite relatable in a few scenes. Do you know what I mean? Like, the whole aspect of it's like seeing Catherine go off with a guy. Do you know what I mean? And stuff like that. Like, it really upset her because she was kind of seeing in that moment that, she isn't Catherine's number one priority, and Catherine doesn't only like girls kind of thing. So she's kind of got that relatability to her in a sense. Whereas Beth, I can't look at her and think anything other than you're a simp. That's it. And it's an interesting angle to think that she could have potentially like been, working with Catherine kind of thing like that. But I don't know. Her character in the film does too much to try and help Nick.
Yeah.
That makes me think that she couldn't have been working with Catherine.
Yeah.
She just wanted. She was obsessed with her, and Catherine loved her. Yeah. Evidence, including that blonde wig and an ice pick, were collected at the scene.
She kept that blonde wig for a long time. It's something so ugly.
Good condition.
Yeah, very good condition.
It's collected at the scene and is in Beth's apartment, implicating her as the killer of Boz, Nelson, Moran, and her own husband, along with collections of photos and newspaper clippings of Catherine that imply an obsession with her. This leaves Nick. This leaves Nick confused and dejected. He returns to his apartment. Nick's sad again. What a shame. He returns to his apartment where Catherine meets him. She explains her reluctance to commit to him as people she cares about keep dying. But then they have sex, and after that they discuss their future. Catherine appears to be reaching for something under the bed. They start having sex again, and an ice pick is revealed to be under the bed, and that's Basic Instinct.
I love how they do that end, where it goes to black, and you think the credits are going to start, and then it's just very brief.
Yeah. But
you think the credits are going to start, you're like, oh, fucking hell, and then it starts again, and then it goes down to under the bed with the ice pick.
And the way the score intensifies as well as soon as you see the ice pick. It's amazing.
It's really great. Yeah, really great.
A chef's kiss ending, if you ask me.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, definitely.
So, always leave them wanting more.
Until Basic Instinct.
Yeah.
Yes, in which case, just don't put yourself through it. In which case.
So what are our closing thoughts on Basic Instinct?
Legendary, iconic, defined a genre, started careers. Do you know what? I will always love this film, I think, just because it is such a wild ride, and I'm never bored of it. Every single time I watch it, it's like watching it for the first time, and even though I know what's going to happen next, I'm still excited about it. And there's only a few other films that have that effect on me, and I just seem to enjoy it more and more each time I watch it, because it's like trying to just get further into the psyche of like Catherine, and like just the way that character works. Like there's a lot of story in that one person, and it always leaves you wanting more. Like at that ending scene, it always leaves you wanting more. But whatever plot you could come up with on your own is probably better than the one that you're going to see in Basic Instinct 2. Because it just didn't. It had all the tools for it, but it didn't execute it well at all.
What's your thoughts, Chris?
I think I completely agree. I think it's the sort of ultimate Paul Verhoeven film, and I'm a huge Paul Verhoeven fan, where you think it's one thing, but when you really digest it and you really take notice, it's not only thoroughly entertaining, it's got layers.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's well made. The characters are well developed. And yeah, I agree. It started a whole genre. It brought what Hitchcock was doing, what Brian De Palma was doing, and brought it into the 90s, made it so stylish.
Mm-hmm.
It pushed boundaries of sex on screen, in a mainstream film, and it brought Sharon Stone to our lives, and thankful for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
For that we will be forever grateful.
Exactly. It's Paul Verhoeven at his best. It's Sharon Stone at her best. What more could you want? It's a camp old time, and it does everything it needs to a great level.
It's melodramatic. Yeah. It's thrilling. It's horror. It's erotic thriller.
Yes,
got everything.
Comes across the board.
Yeah. So if you are a fan of Basic Instinct, let us know on social media. We're Horror Cult Trash over on Facebook and Instagram, Horror Cult Trash on Twitter. I'm dead at Gaz92 on Letterboxd, Gazmo205 on Instagram, and GazCruise92 on Twitter.
I'm Chris Barker823 on Instagram and Letterboxd.
And, you know, it's Pride Month. If you're feeling generous, give your favourite gays 5 stars on iTunes. Rate, review, and subscribe. Like and follow and everything else. Give us a rating on Spotify. Curtis, where can we find you?
Oh, you never can. I'm always lurking. So, no, I'm kidding. I am on Instagram at curtis.s_corner 2.0. So, yeah, if you like films and you want to see lots of pictures of Blu-rays, then give me a follow.
Absolutely.
And if you don't, fuck off, because I don't care. So, yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
By the way.
Well, it was fun. I had a great time.
Yes, this has been a lot of fun to record and a lot to say about this great choice of a film as well.
I know, it's nearly gone on for the same length of time as the film as
I know,
well.
yeah.
In fact, you could sync it up.
So next week we'll be back on Tuesday discussing Freaky with Their Queer Podcast.
Woo.
And on Friday, it's double episode week. On Friday, we'll be back and we'll be discussing Hairspray for our original versus remake episode. I mean, what else are we going to discuss for original versus remake for Pride Month?
Remake.
You know, we already did Suspiria last year, so
Yes.
no idea what we're going to do next year. But yes, thanks again, Curtis.
Thank you so much.
And we will be back next week, same time, same place.
Bye.